I'm Gail Turner, and thanks for joining But I'm Not Wrong. Today I'm talking about Jordan Peterson. Most everyone who's looking for an intellectual argument on the right side of YouTube has probably stumbled across or been steered towards Jordan Peterson. He's a Canadian intellectual who has legions of fans from when he shot to fame in 2017 when Canada's Bill C-16 amended Canada's human rights law to include gender identity. Now, Peterson is a clinical psychologist and tenured professor of psychology at the University of Toronto. So one might want to forgive him for being rather out of his element when he's away from the halls of academia. You see, the primary purpose of Bill C-16 was to protect trans people from discrimination in areas such as housing and the workplace. The word pronoun doesn't appear anywhere in the text of the statute. The Canadian Bar Association even weighed in to say that the idea that the amendment would force individuals to embrace concepts or use pronouns which they find objectionable was based on a basic misunderstanding of how human rights legislation works. Nonetheless, Peterson decided to run with a lie instead and declared far and wide that Bill C-16 was a total attack on free speech. As he called it, a compelled speech bill. I'm putting that in quotes, which it wasn't. So, in spite of being a pretty intelligent guy, he just did what the Canadian Bar Association warned against. He decided instead to misunderstand human rights legislation, and C-16 has now been on the books for about 4 years, since 2017, and I may note no one has been charged with a pronoun crime. And yet Peterson continues to misconstrue a fairly straightforward bill and has made himself famous and has kept himself in the media limelight with that deliberate misunderstanding. Now, that fame mostly comes from outside of Canada. There have been many guest spots on Joe Rogan's podcast, most notably, where Peterson finds a welcoming home for his ideas. Now he tries to frame himself as just a guy trying to help others, offering guidance and inspiration, most notably in his best-selling book, The 12 Rules of Life. But the problem is he keeps talking politics. But his ideas have some flaws. He has a deep objection to equality of outcome, yet continues to believe in equality of opportunity. Yet in a society where wealth can be inherited, this distinction is untenable. One generation will obviously shape the next generation's opportunities. Having rich parents or poor parents is the difference between having either an array of opportunities or a narrow choice of them to choose from. So, when an outcome can be so arbitrarily be from wealth and other advantages being passed on, a person's success can't simply be attributed to having kept their back straight and their rooms cleaned. Given Peter's history of alarmism about civil rights legislation for trans people and his often overwrought style of presentation, it can be tempting to just ignore him. I admit, in my mind, he's just a bit of a dink because of that. So I've tended to ignore him. But his legions of fans are going nowhere. And there's a lot in the 12 rules of life that are good for people to take in and absorb. There are probably rules you could have learned or should have learned in Sunday school or at your mama's knee. You know, things like don't lie, don't judge others, life isn't fair, listen to other points of view. I don't know that any of that is new, but it's well written. And for those who are in the market for this kind of thing, it will serve them well. So, if you agree, give me a like. If you disagree, I'd love to hear why you disagree. You know what to do.